Okay, so today we'll be exploring simple interest and compound interest. You might remember that in the last class we had done a problem which involved some amount of banking and all of that. And I know that the concept was slightly difficult, and it took some time for us. It took some time for me to explain to you guys how to solve it, but I think at the end of the class all of you were quite comfortable with what was happening. So what I was trying to do in the last class was to teach you how to create a function for a given problem. um, and that second bank was giving us a little bit of problem. So that second bank, what it was doing is the difference between the first bank and the second bank. The first bank, the same amount of money was being added every year or every month. But for the second bank, what was happening was every year the money that was being added would change because it would depend on what is left in the bank. That is the difference between simple interest and compound interest. So, just to start with the basics, we all know what happens in a bank. So, we keep money, and after some amount of time, the money increases. Now, something we have to try to understand here is that it's not that it increases automatically. What actually happens is because people take loans in the bank and so many other things happen, the bank makes some amount of money every year and they deposit that money to different people's accounts. Okay, so it's like, for example, let's say there are five people in a bank. Each person has put 100 rupees in the bank. So now the bank has total of 500 rupees. Let us say somebody takes a loan of 500 rupees from the bank. Okay, so loan, so all that 500 rupees goes to that person. But you all know that when you take a loan, you have to pay back some amount of interest, right? So let us say that that person, if he took 500 rupees from the bank, he had to pay back 550 rupees. Okay, there is no bank which will say that you take 500 rupees and you just give back 500 rupees. That is how it happens between friends. Or if we take it from our parents, we say we will take whatever and we'll give the same thing. But in the bank, you have to give interest. So if you take 500 rupees from the bank and let's say he gives back 550 rupees. So now what has happened to the bank? It has made 50 rupees, right? So what it does with the 50 rupees is it keeps, let's say, 25 rupees to itself because it needs to function. It has to pay to its employees and it has to run all the machines and building and all of that. And the remaining 25 rupees, it distributes 5 rupees to each account. So now each account, which started with 100 rupees, became 105 rupees. That is how the money increases. This is a small example. It happens in a lot more larger scale. Nobody will take 500 rupees loan, give 550, and bank won't even give you all their money. If bank has 500 rupees, it won't give 500 rupees as loan. But that is what happens in the bank. It's not that the money just increases on its own. So banks offer different deals. So there are different banks that have their own ways of giving interest. So interest is, if I keep 100 rupees in the bank, how much it will increase? Because every person wants their money to increase if they keep it in the bank, right? So there are two ways of doing it. One is simple interest, where the same amount of money will be added to your account every year. And the other is compound interest, where the amount of money that is added will depend on how much is left in your bank. So simple interest and compound interest, the difference is that simple interest is constant, it will remain the same, and compound interest keeps changing. And the problem which I gave you last class, it was not exactly how it happens in the real world, because in that I told you that it will add 400 rupees every month. There is no bank which will add the same amount. It will add a percentage. So the percentage is dependent. So what is the meaning of percentage? What is the difference between 10% and 10 rupees? 10 rupees is a quantity, it will remain the same. But 10% means if I have 100 rupees, then 10% is 10 rupees. If I have 1000 rupees, 10% is 100 rupees. If I have 1 crore rupees, then 10% is 10 lakh rupees. So that percentage means that it is a part of something bigger. Okay, it's a fraction. Yeah, very good. So if I say 10%, it means it is 10 or 10 by 100. So it is 1/10 of the total. So both simple interest and compound interest happens in percentage. Simple example, for simple interest, let's say the somebody's microphone is on. Can you turn it off? Did somebody join just now? Okay, thank you. So simple interest, let's say, is a 10%. Okay, let's say there's a bank which gives you 10% simple interest. So what happens is, if you keep, so it's 10% per year. So that is important. It could be 10% per year, it could be 10% per 2 years, or 10% per 6 months, let's say per year. So let's say we deposit 400 rupees. So now, because we have deposited 400 rupees, every year it will increase by 10%. What is 10% of 400? It is 40. So after 1 year it will be 440. After 2 years it will be 480. After 3 years it will be 520, 560. So same thing. It just increases by 40 every year because it is simple interest. So the 10% is calculated on whatever money you kept, and the same thing is added. Compound interest, what happens is, oh my god. Okay. So compound interest, let's say again, is 10%. Okay. It's the same thing, 10% per year. And we deposit 400 rupees. What happens is, after 1 year, it will be 440. Now, after 2 years, it won't be 480. It will add 10% of this. What is 10% of this? 10% of that is 440 divided by 10, which is 44. So it will add 44 to this, and that becomes 484. Then it will add 10% of that, which is 48.4. So it will add 48.4 like this, and then 10% of this. That is the difference. Okay, so there are formulas to calculate this. You don't. It's not that. So if somebody tells you what is the money after 100 years, you don't go and go on and on and on doing it for 100 years. It's very it's a lengthy procedure. So there is a formula for it. So before we look at the formula, there are some things that you have to understand. Some terms that are related to this. So one term that is related is called amount. Okay, amount is the money in the bank, total money in the bank at the end, let's say. Okay, so if you kept your money for some amount of time, at the end of that much period of time, whatever is left, that is your amount. Okay, uh, principal, let me actually check the spelling. I think principal is P A L. Yeah, it's A L. Okay, that is the amount of money that you wish to keep in the bank. So in this case, our principal is 100 rupees because we kept 100 rupees in the bank. Okay, sorry, 400 rupees. 400 rupees is our principal because that was the amount of money that we wanted to keep in the bank. The amount would be 532 rupees after 3 years. Okay, this is the principal. Next, time is how long you wish to keep the money in the bank in terms of years or months or whatever. So let's say we do it in years for this class. And the last is called the rate, not the last but one. Rate is the rate of interest. So rate of interest is this percentage. The percentage is, so here the rate is 10. Okay. If the rate here was 20, then we would increase every year by 80 rupees because 80 is 20% of 400. Okay, rate is the rate of interest, a simple to understand. And lastly, interest, the difference between amount and principal. Simple to understand, because principal was the money that we kept in the bank, amount was the final money, so interest will be the difference of this and this. So that tells you by how much your money increased. Amount, principal, time, rate, and interest. Okay, so in this problem, in this one, the first one, our principal was rupees 400, our time was 1, 2, 3, 4 years, our rate of interest was 10%, and our interest, can somebody tell me what was our interest here if we kept it in the bank for 4 years? What was the interest? The amount is 560. Yeah, I will show it. I will show it, just a second.
160.
Was that Parv who spoke? Yeah, 40 for 1 year, but we want to know what was the total interest. So total interest is amount minus principal. What is the amount? It is 560. What is the principal? It is 400 rupees. So the interest, total interest that we have after 4 years will be rupees 160. Okay, not 180, 160. Aryan, 560 minus 400 is 160. Okay, fine. These are the terms related. Now let us look at simple interest. So the formula for simple interest is simple interest equals principal multiplied by time multiplied by rate, entire thing divided by 100. This is the simple interest formula. Pay very close attention. So the simple way to remember that is SI equals PTR divided by 100. Okay, which means if somebody gives us the principal, the time, and the rate of interest, we can calculate the simple interest. Okay, for any quantity. So let us do a simple example. In fact, let us just use the same example. I want to use the same example because you guys actually saw what was happening, right? We are adding 40 rupees every year. So it's easy to understand this logic. So we will apply this formula over here. And we will see whether this formula actually works. So I will get rid of these guys. We will say that we kept it for 4 years. For 4 years. Okay. We kept it for 4 years. If you can see here, so it was 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So we will check if the simple interest with 10% per year for 4 years for 400 rupees is actually 160 rupees. This is not the interest, this is the amount. So the interest has to be 160 rupees. Okay, let us check. So first we will write down time equals 4, rate equals 10, principal equals 400. It's always good to develop this habit where cultivate this habit where you actually write these things down. Okay, so now SI will be PTR divided by 100, which would be 400 times 10 times 4 divided by 100, which would be 16,000 divided by 100, which is equal to rupees 160. And that is the same interest that we got, right? When we added and did it by addition, we got the same answer. So this is it. This is all that simple interest is about. So we will first focus on simple interest and then we will go to compound interest. So now I will give you a simple problem. So simple instruction that you have to follow for this simple interest, simple problem is that you should not reveal the answer until and unless I ask you to do it. So the same rule applies where if you don't say anything or if you don't type anything, I will assume that you have gotten the answer. If you are not able to get the answer, you can ask a doubt and I will give you some time. And once you are done, we will all solve it together. Please do not show off or give us any answers. I don't want to take any names, but I hope you are realizing to whom I'm talking. So please do not give answers if you have done it, because I want everybody to do it. Because this is not like a classroom, because if you actually type there, everybody can see it. In the class, if you write it in your book, nobody can see it. Let's do some problems. I'll not give you difficult. So let's say Raghav deposits rupees 3,000 in the bank for 3 years. The bank offers simple interest, I'll say SI, at a 5% per year rate. Okay. What is the interest on the money after 3 years? This is a simple problem. Okay. So you can start solving as and when you please, but I will just go on typing the problems and then we will all solve them together. Do not reveal any answers if you're done. Prem deposits money in the bank for some amount of time. The bank offers a rate of 12% per year. If he made an interest of rupees 360 on rupees 1,000, for how many years did he keep the money in the bank? This is a slightly tricky question, but you have to read it carefully and you will be able to understand. Third one, what name? Lakshman deposits rupees 12,000 in a bank for 6 years. If his total amount, pay careful attention, if his total amount after 6 years is 12,360 rupees, what is the rate of interest? Okay. Take your time, no rush. I'm giving you 5 to 10 minutes for this one. And if anybody has any doubt, they can type and everybody else can start doing the problem. You have the formulas with you, so should not be difficult. Yeah, rate of interest can come in decimals. Formula, you can look at the pictures. You have taken pictures, right? You can just look at the chat, or I can scroll up, but then, okay. The thing is, the formula is so the first problem you can just put in the formula and get the answer, but for the second, the third one, you have to think a little bit on how you could actually use that formula. It's not like a ready-made thing. You have to understand it a little bit. You have to take terms here and there. Thank you. PTR upon 100. Yes. Okay. So I'll start solving from the first problem. Those of you who are still doing it, you can continue it afterwards, or um okay. So let's start with the first one. It's simple. It's just we have to directly substitute the formula. So simple interest would be PRT upon 100. So 3000, which is the principal, multiplied by time, which is 3, multiplied by rate, which is 5, divided by 100. That would give us 45,000 divided by 100, rupees 450. Okay. That is the interest. Don't have to tell if you got the answer right or wrong. Just if you did not understand what we did, then you can ask a doubt. Is there anybody who has a confusion with this problem? We just did P into T into R divided by 100 and we got the interest, because the question was, what is the interest on the money? Saksham is typing something. I'll wait for his doubt. Okay, nothing. Next one. Prem deposits money in the bank. So this is again not that difficult. But here you have to change the formula a little bit. So let's just write down what we know. We know P. Oh, okay, yeah. So what is P? He made an interest of rupees 360 on rupees 1000. So you have to understand the meaning of the question. So on rupees 3000 means that that was the money which he kept. 1000, sorry, not 3000, 1000. P is rupees 1000. Time we do not know, because I said it deposits money in the bank for some amount of time. We do not know the time. He made an interest of rupees 360. So we know that simple interest is 360. And we know that the rate is 12. So now, according to the formula, simple interest should be equal to PTR upon 100. Therefore, we can say that 360 should be equal to P is 1000, time which we do not know, rate which is 12 divided by 100. So now what we could do is some simple arithmetic. We can calculate this here. This becomes 1000 times 12 is 12,000 divided by 100 is 120. So 360 becomes 120t. So therefore t will be equal to 3 years, because it's just, I mean, you guys know this simple algebra. You can just take 120 to the other side. So t is 3 years. So he kept the money in the bank for 3 years. We can quickly verify. If every year there is 12% interest, it means he's making 120 rupees every year. So 120, 120, 120. Therefore, the interest is 360 rupees. Okay, this one is slightly trickier. So what do we know here? We know that principal P is rupees 12,000. We know that the amount A is 12,360. What is amount? Amount is principal plus interest. Okay. So from this one, we could actually calculate the simple interest. So simple interest becomes 12,360 minus 12,000. So you have to understand that, because we've not given the interest directly. I've not told you that the interest is 360 rupees. I've told you that the amount is 12,360. The principal was 12,000. So the interest will inevitably be 360 rupees. Time is 6 years. Rate we do not know. Rate is a question mark. So what is the formula? So we can say that 360, which is the simple interest, should be equal to principal, which is 12,000, times time, which is 6, times rate, which we do not know, divided by 100. So we can say that 360 should be 72,000 times R divided by 100. So we can do the division here. This becomes 360 is equal to 720 times R. So R becomes half. Did I do some mistake somewhere? No, all good. Okay. R becomes half. So half is, we can say, 0.5. So this is 0.5% interest, which is very less. Okay. So it is not even giving you 1% interest, because 1% of 12,000 is 120, and it is giving you half percent, which means it is giving you 60 rupees interest per year. It's very low, very, very low. Yeah, rupees 60 is the interest per year, but that is not the question here. The question is, what is the rate of interest? The rate of interest is 0.5%. The rate of interest is 0.5%. Because 0.5% of 12,000 is 60. And that is the amount of money that is being added to your account every year. So after 6 years, it's 12,360. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you have to be careful when you do the arithmetic, because see here, if you take 100 to this side, this becomes 36,000, and then you can divide it by 72,000, or you can do the division here itself. So that is left to you, but be careful that when you do the transposing from the left hand side to the right hand side, the sign has to be, you have to be very careful about that, multiplication and division, and you have to solve for the variable. Okay, is there any confusion or any difficulty with respect to any of the problems? Is there anything that is hard to understand at this point of time? Very good, very good. Waiting for your doubts. Okay, good. So let's go to compound interest. Compound interest. This is something that is a really important topic, and it's more complicated than the simple interest. So again, all the concepts are the same. There is amount, there is principal, there is time, there is a rate, there is interest. Okay, the interest is actually compound interest. So let me give you the formula for compound. This is slightly harder to memorize. In this case, let's okay, so compound interest will be equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole to the power T minus P. Okay, try to understand the problem. Try to understand the formula. You are multiplying P. Inside the bracket you have 1 plus R by 100 and you are raising this to the power T. Okay, and then you are finally subtracting P. So actually what is happening here is, why this subtraction of P is happening is because this formula actually gives you the amount. It doesn't give you the interest, it gives you the amount. Therefore, for us to get the amount, we have to subtract the principal. So you guys might remember here that amount is principal plus, where are those terms? Okay, here. So amount is the money in the bank at the end. Okay, principal is the amount of money that you wish to keep in the bank. So therefore, this formula is actually giving us the money in the bank at the end. But if we want only the interest, we have to subtract the initial amount. So that will leave us with the interest. That will leave us with the interest, and that will give us the compound interest. So let's try to do a simple problem. As always, let's do the problem where we have actually done the. So we'll do this one first, and then let's see if the formula actually works. Okay, in this case, what is our principal? Principal is 400, rate is 10, time is how many years? 1, 2, 3 years, and what else do we know here? That's all we need, right? Okay, so now let's calculate compound interest. P into 1 plus R by 100 whole to the power T minus P. If I just substitute, it's 400 multiplied by 1 plus, what is R by 100? R by 100 would be 10 by 100 whole to the power 3 minus 400, because 400 is the principal. So this is so what is 10 by 100? 10 by 100 is 1 by 10, which is 0.1. Okay, so this would be 1.01 raised to the power 3 minus 400. So we can use a calculator for this problem. This will be, so what is 1.01 to the power 3? It's 1.030301. Okay, so now let us multiply this by 400. Wait, what happened? Sorry, not 1.01, 1.1. My bad. Because 10 divided by 100 is 0.1. So 10 divided by 100 is 0.1, and we have to add that to 1, right? Okay, so we have 1.1 raised to the power 3, which is 1.331. So multiply this by 400 and we get 532.4. But we have to subtract 400 from that. Subtract 400, that leaves us with 132.4. So therefore, you are right, amount would be 532.4, as we can see here. However, the interest will be 132.4. Don't worry, this formula is the only thing that is difficult, but if this formula is given to you, you should not have any difficulty in substituting the values, right? So let's try a simple problem. Let's say what name getting any Ram keeps rupees, I will say 2,400 in the bank for 5 years. The bank gives compound interest at 5% per year. What is the amount at the end of 5 years? Okay, so you can use a calculator if you wish to. So I don't mind if you use calculators for this one because you have to understand the concept. That's okay. What is the amount at the end of 5 years? So I'm not asking you to calculate the interest. I'm asking you to calculate the amount. Can you do this problem? Yeah, I'm not going to solve it. I will wait for you to do it on your own. You can use calculators if you wish because the raising to the power t is going to need a calculator. I'll give you guys 2 more minutes. Okay, let's do it. Answer is very complicated. It's compound interest. So compound interest will be 2,400. So we don't want compound interest, we want amount. We calculate amount. So we can just use the same formula and not do the subtraction by p. So we can just amount will be equal to 2,400 multiplied by 1 plus r is 5. So 5 divided by 100. 5 divided by 100 is 0.05 whole to the power 5. So that is 2,400 multiplied by 1.05 raised to the power 5. What is 1.05 raised to the power 5? You want to use a calculator for that one? Okay. It's 1 point, I just want to do that again, 1.05 raised to the power 5. Yeah, it's 1.26, sorry, 1.276, whatever. So this has to be multiplied by 2400. Wow, okay, 3063.0. So yeah, you can say it's 3063 or 3063.1 if you round it off. So amount is equal to 3063.1. Okay, how many of you got this answer? Very good, very good, very good, very good. Vansh Patel, Tanvi, Saksham, Lavnish, Aryan, all of you, very good. Okay, so I don't have any more problems to teach you today. This is all that I wanted to do. If you have any doubt, you can ask. This is a completely new concept. Yeah, it's better to deal with it in fractions. So you can do it in fractions. So what would happen if you did it in fractions is, instead of writing it as 1 plus 0.05, you can write it as 1 plus 5 by 100. So that would be 105 divided by 100. And this you will raise to the fifth power. So it's the same thing. Okay. Yeah, you don't need to round it off always. You can just leave it the way it is. 21 by 20. Yeah, it'll be 21 by 20, and then you raise it to the fifth power. Your denominator will be 20 raised to the power 5, and then numerator. Yeah, it's fine. But if you're allowed to use a calculator, this is a lot simpler to do, I feel. In exams, when they usually give you these problems, since you do not have calculators, they will not ask you to do for 5 years and all. They'll just ask you for 2 years and 3 years and things like that. So you can actually do it by hand, because if it's 2 years, you can do 21 by 20 multiplied by 21 by 20. It's raised to the power 2 and raised to the power 5. Remember, this is raising to the power, not just multiplying by 5. You are actually doing 1.05 times 1.05 times 1.05. So are you able to understand why this logic actually works? Because why this works is, see, I'll explain to you why this works. I won't give you any homework problems today. We'll stop after this. But I just wanted to understand why this formula actually makes sense. That will make it easier for you to memorize it. See, what does simple interest do? Simple interest, what it does is same thing will be increased every year. Here, what is happening is that whatever amount you have, right, on that it will be calculated. So our amount is 2,400. So after 1 year, it will increase by 5%. So this will be 2400 multiplied by 1.05. It will increase, right? So it will become multiplied by 1.05. Now, this money next year will again increase, and it will be multiplied by 1.05, and that will be multiplied by 1.05, and that will be multiplied by 1.05. So that amount will keep changing, and that will be multiplied. So it will be something like this. Actually, this is what is happening. This is being multiplied, and then that is your new amount for the second year. So that is again being multiplied like this, and then that is your next amount. So this is what is happening. Okay, so we can write it like this. But the thing with multiplication is it has associativity in multiplication. It doesn't really matter which way you put the brackets. So I can actually say this is 2400 times 1.05 raised to the power 5. I can do it like this, because multiplication is associative. Associativity means it doesn't matter where you put the brackets. You can try it for any number in multiplication. 3 times 4 times 5, if it is like this, or if it is like this, they are both the same. This is 3 multiplied by 20, which would be 60. This is 12 multiplied by 5, which is also 60. So I don't know. Okay, it's the same thing. It's also true for addition. Okay, this is true for only addition and multiplication. This is called associative property. I think you would have studied it in your earlier classes, which is why I didn't go over it. Okay, any questions? Can we wind up? Okay, very good. You can text me if you have any more questions later. Have a good Sunday. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Actually, by this time next week, I will be done with my semester. I will be back in my grandmother's house in Cincinnati. So This is my last week of semester. I have 3 exams. That's it. Uh, I'm done with all my classes. I have 3 exams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah, no homework questions today. What are we going to do next class? Next class we will see. I have to think about it. Over this week, I will think what is something interesting that I can teach you guys, and we will do something. As of now, this much of simple interest and compound interest is enough for fifth and sixth grade. I think this is sufficient. I just want to introduce you to the formulas and some simple problems. And if you guys are actually interested, we could look at more complicated problems, because what happens is here we are doing problems where the interest is happening every year. But in banks, what will happen is sometimes the interest will happen every month or every 6 months or every 3 months. Okay, so those will have slightly different formulas. The idea will be the same thing, but there will be some difference in the formulas. So we can look into that if you guys are interested, or if no, then let's study something else. I have something in mind. I don't want to tell it now. I'll surprise you guys next week. Okay, it will be a very interesting topic. Fine, take care. Bye bye.